Hello and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Wednesday, January the 11th edition of our video devotionals. We appreciate you being with us today. We call it Winning Wednesday, and we are winners in the Lord, no doubt about it. And I just want to remind you of that. It's the middle part of the work week and school week, and then, of course, Wednesday evening church services. If you can attend where you normally attend, that'd be great. And then, of course, I know there's churches around. If you don't have a church you attend, there's plenty. That's a good time to go to church. You can go and hear some sermon or a Bible study, whatever it might be. But at any rate, Wednesday night church, be there if at all possible. So yesterday we were not able to do a video and sick, and I appreciate all the prayers. I noticed on Facebook as I main purpose was just to announce I was not able to do one, and then I noticed a lot of people said we're praying for it. And I really appreciate it. Whatever this thing is that's going around, or one of the things going around, I guess I succumbed to that. And I got real concerned because everything seemed to be going down into the lungs. And then last night, right before bed, I noticed things started to break up. And I won't get gross here, but I said, well, I think that's a good sign. But I'll tell you the four things that I did. And I know, short of going to urgent cares or emergency rooms or whatever, is kind of real simple remedies. But I know if it wasn't for cough drops, Tylenol, Vicks Vapor Rub, and then a pot of water with a lot of salt in it on high, steaming, and you put your face down in there and just breathe it in. That's kind of what's helped me. And I know that's kind of old-fashioned remedies, but those are the things that definitely have helped me. So I appreciate the prayers, and I think I'm part past that halfway point, as they would say. All right, we're going to jump into things here today. Of course, we've added a new feature. We read from the book called Today here, and I know that's backwards to you, but it gives events from each date in history. And on January the 11th, 1755, it was the birthday of Alexander Hamilton. He was the first Secretary of the Treasury of the nation, and he established the Bank of the United States, Alexander Hamilton. All right, then in 1878, milk was delivered for the first time in bottles. This was done in Brooklyn, New York. And you can imagine how modern that seemed. And now, of course, that's so antiquated, we don't even think about it. But that was in 1878. And then in 1843, Francis Scott Key died, and he was the one who wrote the national anthem. So these are some things that happened in this date in history. Today we're going to be in Genesis chapter 32 and 33. Give you a few points here, let you find that. Genesis 32 and 33. And we're reading through the Bible in 1 year's time. And as we read through it, then we give you something from basically the chapters that we've read or somewhere real close to it. All right, so we appreciate everybody who watches. Again, pray for one another as we need it. Sometimes there's things much more severe than others, but at any rate, just making a practice of praying for one another, and I know everybody would appreciate that. All right, so the setting here is Jacob is making plans to go meet his brother Esau, and basically the last time they were even near each other, Esau had vowed to kill his brother for the stealing, if you please, of the blessing that his father Isaac had given him. And Esau was very upset about it, to the point he says, I'm going to kill my brother whenever that. Well, Mom heard about it. Rebecca said, Jacob, you better leave. So he ends up going back to his mother's family, ends up getting two wives, some handmaids, and I think he spends about, if I'm right here, about 20 years, 7 years for each wife, Rachel and Leah, and then I think 6 years getting the cattle, and then he ends up leaving and goes back to what we would call, back toward home. So on the way back there, he says, I've got to meet up with Esau. I've got to make things right with my brother. So the evening before that happens, it says in verse 24 of chapter 32, and Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. When he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaketh. And he says, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. What a wonderful, wonderful event. I believe that was the Lord Jesus Christ that he was wrestling with. And he did make the point that I've seen God face to face. I believe if he'd have said that to an angel, then an angel would have said, "You're talking to the wrong person. I'm not God." But I do believe that was the Lord. So Point is, he does that, and then he's going to go meet his brother, and he sends all these things over, and he sends his families. He's fearing the worst, that Esau's just going to slaughter everybody, including himself. So he starts sending these gifts, if you please, gifts of appeasement. And it says here in verse 8, and he said, "What meaneth thou by all this drove which I met?" And he said, "These are to find grace in the sight of my Lord." And Esau said, "I have enough, my brother, keep that thou hast unto thyself." And Jacob said, "Nay, I pray thee, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then receive my present at my hand. For therefore I have seen thy face, as though I had seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because God hath dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." And he urged him, and he took it. Here's the interesting part of the story. Of course, some of the things I read there, they deserve our attention, but those are what they are. But here's my take on with this devotion today. You got two brothers. We know that Jacob and his mother Rebekah, basically with a scheme, stole the blessing from Esau. He's very upset to the point he's going to kill his brother, mad, and then all this time passes, about 20 years later, and they meet up with each other. And it's interesting that Esau says, "What is all this stuff?" And Jacob says, "Well, this is basically to be a blessing. It's gifts." And Esau says, "That's okay. I've got enough. I'm good. Thank you, because I got plenty myself." And, the language that Jacob uses is, you can tell he's had an encounter with God. As sketchy as Jacob could be and was, still the encounter with God and his working towards being right with God, that is what it is. And it's a wonderful, story. If you think about the whole nation of Israel is named after basically Jacob. It could have been a lot of people, but the name changed from Jacob to Israel, and then that kind of being the namesake for the country. That's very interesting to me, and how God chose him and changing his name. But the point is, Jacob has encounters with God. I notice with Esau, though, there's almost no mention of God whatsoever in any conversation ever, as far as I know. It's always been about things that he needed, things that he wanted. And it's interesting that when Jacob tried to give him stuff, he says, "I'm good, I've got plenty." There was nothing about it that seemed to have anything about being right with God. Jacob said to his brother, "It's like I've seen the face of God," that connotation, "and God's dealt well with me." Esau didn't say anything about that. So I guess here's the point I want to make very quickly here is that, be careful in life acquiring things, or that being the kind of the end result of your happiness, or the means to make you feel like you're satisfied or you've accomplished something. I think that was kind of Esau's MO. We know that he went after the wrong people, married to the wrong people. Esau, of course, and his people, they don't have a strong relationship with God, and that's by choice, of course. But I'm saying that because the difference between Jacob and Esau is the fact that Jacob pursued after God, and Jacob, of course, has his issues, but he did pursue. He's making the effort. And Esau made no effort. He had no desire at all whatsoever about the things of God. It seemed to be all about him and about things. What seemed to trouble him probably about the blessing was him missing out on things, and not the fact that it had anything maybe to do with the blessings of God or the blessings of his family's heritage. So, enjoy the things that you have that you can't touch. The things that God does for us, not necessarily the things, but just the fact that God is in our life. I think that's important. Esau doesn't represent that, and Jacob does. And I'm glad all of us can kind of relate to Jacob in many ways. And hopefully the part that we relate to the most is that pursuing after God and doing what we can to be close to him. So that's what we have for you today. Again, appreciate all the prayers. We pray that you have a good day. If you've been sick or on the verge of, I pray you get better soon. I don't know how that is, because I don't get sick much, but it certainly brings everything kind of to a halt sometimes. And we'll see you tomorrow on what we call, let's see here, Trusting Thursday. And hopefully everybody has a great day. Thank you.